Hello everybody. So I wanted to look towards Australia's tour to India. I'm going to look at, we haven't announced the squad, but I'm going to look at how we could win the test. So I think for me, the focus is going to be on 4 players who are going to be our rocks. So our 2 best batsmen are Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne. These 2 are better than any of the players we had in our peak times. So when we were in our peak time, that's the only time we've won in India in the last 30 years. And we almost won in, I think it was 2001, when VVS Laxman had that amazing effort to come back. So these 2 are our only batsmen that are ahead of that. All the other aspects of batting were worse. Not by an enormous amount, but by enough that overseas playing in India, India's really going to capitalise. Head, Warner and Khawaja are traditionally very bad away from home. Head's in some decent form, there's a chance he'll do well, but we can't guarantee it. And our number 6, we don't know who that is. Cameron Green, yes, he's a bit of an all-rounder, whether that's useful in India we don't know. He's probably not as good as Steve Waugh was back in the day. So the other 2 players that I'm going to rely on are Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood, who are Australia's 2 best bowlers, both pace bowlers. They're going to be crucial. Those 2 are the only 2 that, I'm not going to say that they're definitely better than Glenn McGrath, but they're probably on par, close to Glenn McGrath, and probably better than Jason Gillespie. So as a twosome, they're about on par with our best 2 back in the day, maybe slightly better. So those 4 are how Australia could be as good as we were in 2004. Problem is Australia doesn't have the depth, and we are effectively carrying 7 players. The 3rd best bowler at the moment is Mitchell Starc. Is a bit of a weak point. He's not consistent. Yes, he has the left arm, and that's great to get some foot marks for Nathan Lyon, but you're going up against India. They're going to have some really good spinners. You do not want to make extra foot marks for him to bowl into. So we might not want to play Mitchell Starc. We might prefer to play Scott Boland. So that's one thing. Next thing is, Cameron Green is a great asset, and you know it's great to have an all-rounder finally, but he's injured. Do we play another all-rounder? I have been advocating for Aaron Hardie, but I don't think they're going to pick him. So I think it might be better to go with someone like a Michael Neser. I know he's more of a bowling all-rounder, but he can bowl those long spells. We know he's a pretty good bowler, even at test level. He has that experience, and he can bat a little bit, not that well, but reasonably well. I don't think he's ideal, but he's at least the right kind of Indian bowler. Will Nathan Lyon do well in India? Probably not, but he'll probably take a few wickets. I can imagine him taking a few. Even Shane Warne didn't do all that well, although he was always injured when he was in India. But it's going to be a struggle. Now, we need to have Travis Head needs to say, okay, he can play well overseas. He's never played well overseas, but it's a relatively short career. He's in amazing form. We can get him to lift his game a bit. Usman Khawaja's in great form. We can get him to lift his game. He's never played well overseas. Maybe he can this time. There's a chance. David Warner also never played very well overseas. He's going to be a bit tougher, but we can encourage him, maybe. So for Australia to succeed, we don't necessarily need Head, Warner and Khawaja to be getting a century every match. We just need them to not get out for ducks and not get out for single figures. Even if they can get 20 or 30 runs each every match, that could be enough with the support of Smith and Labuschagne, who we know are better than any of India's batsmen. We can support them. Now, of course, India does have Virat Kohli, and of course, Surya Kumar Yadav is doing well at the moment too, and there are other players doing well. But, I mean, overall, we know that the quality of Smith and Labuschagne is a little bit better than Kohli's, and a lot better than the other players that India had. But we know that our others are not as good, so they are going to have that backup. Now, Alex Carey, still a few question marks over his spot, but he's going to really need to lift. Can we afford to risk going in with Ashton Agar? And I don't see any way that we can. Yeah, sure. It's nice to think a left arm spin bowler, that might be handy. But he's such a bad quality bowler. And then you say, oh, but he bats a bit. Yeah, that's great. But he doesn't bat very well. Like, he's not as good a batsman as even Michael Neser, let alone Cameron Green. He's probably not even as good as Mitchell Starc or Pat Cummins. You know, he's going to be your number your number 9 or 10 batsman, and he's coming in there as a bowler that is not going to take any wickets in a spinning pitch when he's opening the bowling even, across 2 innings when we needed to win. So that's going to be, I think they will still pick him in the squad, but he just did so badly, and he's such a bad player that I can't see it. But are we even going to have any second spinner? Well, I don't know that we need to. Travis Head is there. He's bowling quite well lately. Labuschagne and Smith, I know it's going to be a lot of pressure because they're also going to be our prize batsmen. But they were good bowlers at different stages, and if they could be encouraged just for this one tour to bowl a bit, and under Nathan Lyon's guidance, I think that could be really useful. And I can imagine us having Lyon, Smith, Labuschagne and Head combined taking a few wickets. I think that's much more likely than Lyon and Agar. And I don't see the benefit of having Agar. Agar's not as good a bowler as any of those other three, who batting is much better. Of course, if Smith and Labuschagne fail, we're going to lose almost certainly. If Cummins and Hazelwood fail, we're going to lose almost certainly. So those 4 are our big keys. Of course, we are up against it. With all of that, we know that even India's quite mediocre sides could still beat Australia's amazing sides. This is not an Australian amazing side. Sure, we're ranked number 1, sort of, according to World Test Championships, but we're nowhere near as good as we were then. India are ranked number 2 according to that. They were like ranked 7 before, and they still beat us at home. So, this is a much better Indian outfit, much worse Australian outfit. There is a chance for Australia to, a chance to win 2-1. I mean, it could happen. But I don't think you'd bet on it. I think that the best Australia could really hope for is a 1-2 or a 1-3, which I think would feel like a victory for Australia. If we could win 1 test, we would feel really good about it. And that's also enough to get into the World Test Championships. If we managed to draw the series 1-1 or 2-2, we would feel ecstatic about that. Let alone if we managed to win the whole series, that would be amazing. It'd have vibes of 1989 in the Ashes, in England, when Australia won 4-0, when we were expecting to lose 4-0, or lose 0-4. That would be the level it'd take if Australia won this one and whitewashed it. But there's also the thing that if Australia managed to lose 0-3, if we got 1 draw and 3 losses, it's not the end of everything. That'll still make the World Test Championship. In fact, even a 0-4 loss would still maybe make it, as long as Sri Lanka don't beat New Zealand 2-0. And New Zealand's not a bad test team. I think that New Zealand have every chance of at least getting 1 test, or at least having a draw. So, but I'd like to at least see Australia play their best and go in with the best lineup. And for me, that does not include Ashton Agar, not at the stage. I'm not saying Ashton Agar will never play again. He does have that variety he's a left-arm spinner and he bats a bit. Nobody else is in that situation. So that alone gives him a chance. But he needs to be a bit more than just an option. He needs to actually be a good player as well. And at the moment, he's not that good player. If he's a good left-arm spin bowler, he could do well in India. But we know that average spinners do not do well in India. You need to be a really good spinner. Now, I know Michael Clarke got 6 for 9 one day in India. Of course, the pitch was just about to it was about to explode, about to be destroyed, and we still lost the match. And that sort of says that, yeah, it wasn't really quite as good a performance as it looked. And Indians at the time said, oh, that means nothing. So, we have to really take that into context. Jason Krejci got, he got 6 for 216, and again, India said, oh, he was bowling badly. So, you have to really consider that Indians play spin bowling really well. They don't have any respect for Australia's spin bowlers. And you may as well throw someone like a Head or a Labuschagne or a Smith at them, because if they do badly, it doesn't matter. Whereas if you filled up a bowling spot with an Ashton Agar, it does matter. Particularly if you're not playing your 5th bowler. So yeah, I definitely think we should go in with probably Boland. Look, I'd still consider Stark maybe in some matches, but Just a bit nervous about those foot marks. Michael Neeson might play. I did say previously Lance Morris. I'm not sure nowadays, but who knows. But certainly I think pace is the key, and our batting is the key. If we don't focus on the batting, we're just going to lose. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye bye now.